Please excuse me, but this was my inheritance from my father. One of the things I remember him by was always having a great sense of humour. And the same with Ajahn. He had a great sense of humour as well. And I think many of you may know some of the stories I learned from him. One of those stories, I'm going to say now, this is from Ajahn Chah. I was there when he said it. There was once, I was a young monk, and I was in the back of a car in Ubon, northeast Thailand. We were being driven to the railway station. Ajahn Chah was in the passenger seat. There was a Thai driver. I was in the back seat together with a novice monk, and the third monk was a translator. And halfway on the journey, Ajahn Chah turned to the American novice and he said to him, "You're thinking about your girlfriend in Los Angeles, aren't you? You have to be very mindful and restrained when you're in a car with Ajahn Chah." He got it totally right. This poor novice monk was embarrassed and then went all red. And then Ajahn Chah said, "Don't worry, we can help you on that." If you don't know this story, I think many of you are laughing because you know what happened in this story. And through the translator, Ajahn Chah said, "Look, if you're really sort of missing your girlfriend in LA, the next time you write to her, ask her to send something of hers, something personal. So when you miss her, you can take that out and it will reduce your loneliness." Remember, he was a novice monk just starting out in monastic life. So he asked, "Is that allowable? Can we do that?" And when Ajahn Chah had that translated, "Oh yes. And the way he said that, it made me realise Ajahn Chah was up to something. And then Ajahn Chah said, to the interpreter, he said something in Thai, first of all, and the poor interpreter, it just took a long time to control himself, stop laughing, before he could actually translate it. And he said, Ajahn Chah says, send your girlfriend a little bottle about this big, and ask your girlfriend to put some of her feces in it. So when you miss your girlfriend, you can open up the bottle and that will cure the problem very quickly. And that can be for a boyfriend if you want to become a bhikkhuni. Don't you ever say, I remember as a young man or a young woman, you had a girlfriend, "I love everything about you, my dear." No, not everything. So it's like using humour to make a very powerful point. And of course, I've never forgotten that over almost 50 years. Sometimes humour helps. But when we get to the precepts, you'll find there is no precept against telling people stories which are deep and powerful, which help you actually not just learn Buddhism, but practice Buddhism. Just like taking precepts. Do you all usually keep 5 precepts at home? Honestly? When I was in Thailand visiting, maybe about 10 or 20 years ago now, I did see people in the meditation hall taking just the 5 precepts. And when they put their hands up to take the 5 precepts, usually put your hand in anjali, I noticed a couple of people had one finger put down. They did all the chanting perfectly. Then I asked, why did you put one finger down? They say, because today we're only keeping 4 precepts. They said everything, but they thought that by putting one finger down, it means you don't have to keep all 5. Now, I'm going to give you the 8th precept. You can't put 8 fingers on. But nevertheless, I still remember going to a Sri Lankan temple. Any Sri Lankan people here today? No. Good, so I won't offend anybody. I went to the Sri Lankan temple, and it was a Wesak day, one of the most important days of the Buddhist year. And some of the people there, I asked them, are you keeping 5 or 8 precepts today? And they said, I'm keeping 13 precepts today. Have you ever heard of the 13 precepts? At that time, I hadn't either. What are the 13 precepts? I asked. Well, they said, we keep 8 precepts in the morning and 5 precepts in the afternoon. That's called the 13 precepts. It's funny, but it's not really the correct way of doing things. So if you are going to keep the 8 precepts, then I can give them to you. However, there are some times that some of you may have physical problems. You need some medication in the afternoon, or just late or early in the evening. That happens to many people. If that is the case, and you do need some medication in the evening, then please tell the manager of this retreat, and you can tell me, I will give you permission straight away to have something light, like a biscuit or something, in order to make sure your stomach does not get even more sick when you take some of these medications. But only if you have to. It doesn't mean you have a 3-course meal. It means you just take something to keep yourself healthy and well. And that's the most important thing with everything we do in Buddhism, to make sure that we do always follow that middle way, avoiding the extremes so you don't torture your own body, you keep it healthy. If it's really necessary, then just tell the retreat manager, I will support you to, yes, take just something very, very light, but very, very light. So those are basically the reason why we have these precepts. They help you. They help you live a simple life, 5 precepts usually, and 8 precepts during a meditation retreat. And I'll mention what those 8 precepts are after you take them. So you take them first, then you find out what Now I think you all know what they are. First of all, the 3rd precept is increased, not to have sexual misconduct, but no sexual contact at all. So in other words, whoever you are in this retreat, you're a meditator. You're not a husband, you're not a wife, you're not a potential partner. We keep that just away from our lives, just for this retreat. And that's the increasing that 3rd precept. And the 6th precept, we're not supposed to use high and luxurious seats. Now, I'm supposed to be keeping that precept all the time. So what am I doing sitting on this high seat? Well, the point is, it is for the convenience, there's a purpose behind it. The main reason for not using high and luxurious seats is just to lessen your ego, the sense of self. So just use an ordinary seat. You use a higher seat here just so you can see me, it's more convenient, for using a microphone. And it's the same with your beds. You can sleep on the floor if you wish. You can sleep on a little cot if you wish. I don't know the beds which you have, but I have a little cot in my room. It's not luxurious. It's not a water bed. It's not a king bed or a queen bed. It's just a simple bed. As long as it's regarded as simple, then it's allowable. You don't need to go to extremes. And if there's some reason you need a special bed, because you have a bad back, we have any other medical conditions, of course you can use that. So, and the next rule is always one of the longest ones, which we have in the 8th precept. Nachagita wadita visukadasana mala gandavale panadavana madado vibhusnatana. And what it means, it starts off with Nachagita, it means no singing or dancing. So basically it means no entertainment. So sometimes say, but Ajahn Brahm, you tell us silly jokes and you entertain us. But there's a purpose behind that, I think many of you know. That if you are too dry and scholastic, people fall asleep. Just in the first talk, and the message does not go in. I was telling some of my drivers who picked me up from the airport, I believe, I told you the story of one of my friends, who many of you may have seen when I got him to go to the global conference in Singapore a year ago. Is Bernard Carr. He's a professor of theoretical physics, one of the close insiders, maybe 3 or 4 insiders of Stephen Hawking's. He was also the president of the Psychic Research Society in Cambridge and London. We used to go ghost hunting together, and he was the first Buddhist I ever met. So we have a personal connection there. And even though he does all of these things, and he's a really very, very good friend, still, nevertheless, now where was I going with this? Were you paying attention? Where I was going with this, that when he was also the one of the presidents of our Buddhist society in Cambridge, often I would go to these talks by these great monks and nuns and scholars, and I would fall asleep. Have ever you fallen asleep during a talk by a monk? Have you? Yeah. Me? I hope not. But he said he used to do that. He was the MC. And he would sit on his chair and this monk would start talking and he'd soon start nodding. So it's just a way of making sure if you are going to give public talks or any instructions, please to make them interesting. And if they're interesting, then people don't fall asleep. They're always waiting for the punchline. No more than that, it keeps people alert and enjoying what's happening. So that's one of the reasons I don't consider this to be entertainment. I consider this to be an interesting way of keeping people alert when you're giving a talk. And even if people yawn when you're giving talks, when your mouth is open, that's when I can put the pill of the Dhamma in. That's anyhow. But it's the entertainment which draws you away from this moment, which has got no real purpose except for wasting time. So that's what we don't get involved in. And also, the other part of that precept is not wearing jewelry or scents, perfumes, not trying to make yourself beautiful or attractive. Even here, you're human beings, as I said. You don't need to look special or attractive. We try not to look at the body, but look inside, deeper into the mind. So that's basically that precept. And of course, actually I did the 6th precept, 8th. But anyway, eighth precept, or I should have said, or the sixth precept, is not eating anything after noon. And I don't know why people even want to eat anything after noon, to break that precept. There's so many allowable things you can eat in the afternoon. In the afternoon, what can you eat without breaking your precepts? What? Cheese, honey, chocolate. You can have a whole meal of that. In fact, one of the stories which comes up into my mind, years and years and years ago, because I am a well-connected monk, I just help out so many different Buddhist societies throughout Australia. There was once Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth was coming to Australia to open the Melbourne Commonwealth Games. And so I got an invite to go to all these functions. First of all, an interfaith service in Sydney, and that was to be followed by a dinner with Her Majesty, the Queen. And that was always really difficult. I mean, this was a great PR for Buddhism in Australia, but to go to a dinner when you're a monk, I have been to many dinners before, just you don't eat. It's kind of torture. You see all this beautiful food and you can't eat any of it. But that was tolerable. But the only thing which wasn't tolerable was the dress code. Because I had three choices. And the first choice on the dress code was black tie. Now, I've never been to any formal dinners before, so I thought, is that all you wear when you go to dinner with me? They said, no, you have to wear a shirt, jacket and everything else. And of course, we don't even have a tie, let alone anything else like that in monastery. So I thought, I'm not going to be able to go. But there were two more choices. The second choice was military uniform. No, this doesn't count as military uniform amongst Rome. And I looked at the third choice. Yes, you got it. Long dress. Well, it's kind of, it's a dress, it's long. So that's what I went as. But what I was impressed with was whoever did that invitation. This is a very high class dinner. And of course they did their research. And I was so impressed. When everybody else had their first course, which I don't know what it was, something like lamb or something from Australia, they gave me, I think it was cheddar cheese, a plate. Really nice stuff. I mean, this was stuff which was, at a Queen's dinner, so it's really high quality. And then they took that away. I hadn't finished it yet. And the second course was another type of cheese, even more delicious. And they soon took that away. Everybody else had something else, I forget what. And my last course, you know my last course? It's like dark chocolate. It was all allowable for a monk. And what was really impressive was not just like the quality of the stuff, but just the fact that someone had done their research and know what they can tell about a forest monk can eat in the evening. Of course, I didn't eat much of it, I didn't need it. I was just too busy talking. That's my big problem in life. I talk too much. You ask some of the monks under me, and they say sometimes I start talking before lunch, and they're looking at the clock, and I'm just enjoying what I'm talking about, and they're getting late. But anyhow, there's many things you can eat, but just we try, to make sure we finish all our eating in the morning time. Why? It means that all those staff, they don't have to worry about cooking in the kitchen in the afternoon. You don't have to worry about eating. You don't have to worry about all the washing up. It gives you so much more free time in the afternoon and evening. And also you have a light tummy in the afternoon and evening. It's really much better for meditation. So that's why we keep that rule. And there's plenty of things you can eat. And one of the stories about those 8 precepts, especially the food precept, I know you've all heard my talks before. If you haven't heard the talks, you've read them in the books. I don't know why I put these things in a book, because all my best stories, you know them better than I do now. You know that time, an Anagarika, a young man in white, training to be a monk in Bodhinyana Monastery in Perth. And he came to see me early one morning. He said, I haven't slept all night. I've done something terrible, and I just have to confess it to you. I'm sorry. I'm ashamed I did this. What did he do? He said he crept into the kitchen in the middle of the night. He made himself a sandwich, and he ate it. And he, I'm so guilty, I haven't slept all night, I'm sorry. And of course, you all know me by now. I just don't have any desire or any inclination to punish anybody. All I said was, look, please just don't do it again. But it's great you acknowledged it. You let me know. And then I told him all the things you can eat in the evening. Or just make sure you have more for lunch. And when I explained that to him, he said, aren't you going to punish me? No. He said, I need to be punished, he said. He put me on the spot. But fortunately, that day before, I've been reading this book about the early history of Australia. You know, in those days, if anybody did anything wrong, they were whipped. It was brutal. So I thought, I've got an idea. I've just been reading this book, so if you really want to be punished, I can give you 50 strokes of the cat. Have you heard about the 50 strokes of the cat punishment? This whip. They give them 50 lashes. He was wearing white clothes. He had what you might call white skin, but that skin went even whiter. He really thought that Ajahn Brahm was going to flog him. And I said, in this monastery, 50 strokes of the cat mean this. We have 2 cats in this monastery. Find one of them. Nice little kitten. Nice cat too. Learn some compassion and kindness. And that's your punishment. And that's been the punishment for transgressions in Bodhinyana Monastery ever since. Something which makes you feel kind, so you can forgive yourself. So if anybody does break any of those precepts here, we don't have cats or kittens. Instead you get 50 strokes of the bear. 1, 2, 3. You find that's far more better to learn a lesson than doing anything else. The reason why people can't forgive themselves or forgive others, a lack of kindness. So anyway, those are the 8 precepts, those are the remedy if you make a mistake. So now I can give them to you. So, you've done this before in Pali, have you? Many times? Yeah? Is it on the projector?
I can set up projector.
How long does it take? How long does it take?
3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay, 3 minutes. Okay, then I can tell another story. Oh, it's going there. No. Sometimes it goes right in front of me. Can't see it. And that was one of the most embarrassing introductions I ever had. It was United Nations Day of Wesak, and they were holding it in Melbourne. And I was one of the presenters there. What they made me do, the curtains were all drawn, and they made me sit right in front of the curtains. And then the MC said, "Now we have a surprise for you." And I was sitting there, and the curtains opened. And I think I was more surprised than they were. It's a very kind of embarrassing introduction. So, okay. Now, see if we can do this. Oh, that's interesting. I can't see them. Is it the top of the 8 precepts? What have you got on there? Can you see it? Ah, white screen. That's a more important precept. Emptying the mind, being still, being pure. Is it happening? Okay. We usually go with the 3 refuges as well. Can we do that as well? Because that's the one which I like a lot. You know, just every time I chant those 3 refuges to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, it kind of inspires me. Please let me know when it's ready.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. You know, some of these traditions, here in Malaysia, but especially in Western countries, often people ask, you know, why do you take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha? What does that mean? Why do you bow 3 times to the Buddha also? I remember going to this very elite Christian school in Australia. They wanted me to give a talk in the morning, say something to the children that they could remember to help them. Even though it was a strict Christian school and I was a Buddhist, they knew I could adapt. So, on the outside of the school, I was waiting with the principal and the chaplain, and the principal said, "We have to wait until all the children are settled, and then we can go in together." And he said, "When we go into the main assembly hall, there's a little shrine to Jesus there." He said, "The chaplain and I, we are going to bow, to the statue of Jesus," just a nod of the head. "But you're a Buddhist monk, you don't need to bow." That's what he told me. And I looked at him and said, "I demand my right to bow to your statue of Jesus." He was totally, what we call, discombobulated. But then the chaplain who knew me, we used to do a lot of work together with the Cancer Support Association. He said, no. Let him do that. This is Ajahn Brahm normal. He hasn't gone crazy. And so that's what I did when I walked in. And then I gave the whole talk to the children about why I did that. And I said, you may know that Buddhists, we often bow 3 times to a Buddha statue. What do I bow to? Is it a lump of wood? Is it a lump of iron or glass or bronze or gold? Why? And I told all the children in the school, including the staff, I first bow to virtue. That's ordinarily like the Sangha. Virtuous people, virtuous conduct. Every time I see an act of virtue, people being good, being kind, being honest, keeping promises. That's one thing you'd always know me for, Victor. If I make a promise, I'll try and keep it. I did tell you when you said you must remember Langkawi. I do remember it. I'm still thinking about it. Haven't made any decision yet. But anyway, you know that I won't forget. That virtue is something which is really, really, really important. That's why I bow to it. And every time I bow to it, my head goes down. The idea of virtue, precepts, goes up. The second thing I bow to is peace. Peace in a Buddhist community, the BGF. Peace in a country like Malaysia, peace in your family, peace in your body, which means good health, and peace in your mind, which is that stillness in meditation. I adore that. I can bow to that all day. Peace, peace, peace. I worship peace. And to me, the Buddha statue is a symbol of that. The last bow is to compassion, acts of kindness. And I love that even more. It's kind, compassionate acts which makes this world a beautiful place. So anyway, I said that's what I bow to. It's not just saying words like precepts just because they don't mean anything, but because I'm supposed to, because I'm a monk. You give it meaning, and so every time I bow to virtue, peace and compassion, which means those qualities I remember and they grow inside of me. What I never expected after I said that was a couple of weeks later, the principal of the school came with a big bus with a lot of his school children, had a school visit to Bodhinyana Monastery. But the principal arrived earlier. He wanted to come inside our main hall, so I took him inside, took his shoes off, and together, side by side, we made our 3 bows to the Buddha in the main hall. If he'd have had his photograph taken, I think the board members of that Christian school would have probably sacked him. But never mind, he understood why we do that, why we keep these precepts. Okay, so let's actually do it now, the 8 precepts, and Buddhang Saranakachami first. Buddhang Saranam Gacchami, Dhammang Saranam Gacchami, Sanghang Saranam Gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranam Gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranam Gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranam Gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranam Gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranam Gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranam Gacchami. So that completes the 3 refuges. I'll now give the 8 precepts. On the screen there, is it in Pali, or in Bahasa Malay, or in Mandarin? Pali. Panatipata Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami, Adinadana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami, Abrahmacharya Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami, Musawada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami, Sura Niraya Majapamadatana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami, Vikala Bhojana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami, Nacha Gita Wadita Visuka Dasana Mana Ganda Vilepana Dharana Mandana Vibhusanatana Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami Ujjasayana Mahasayana Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami. I'll give the blessing. Imani Atasikhapadani Silena Sugating Yanti Silena Bhoga Sampada Silena Niputing Yanti Tasma Silang Visodaye. Very good. So that's the 8 precepts which I've given you. Please look after them, they're like valuable jewels. And if you do lose one, a lot of times people do that just out of mistakes. So don't feel you need to just get one of the teddy bears and 50 strokes. And then try and learn to do better next time. And that's all it is. We don't expect everybody to be perfect. Otherwise, there's no point in you being here. You've already been enlightened. You're here because we're here to learn. And now I'm supposed to give like an introductory talk, is that correct? What am I supposed to do now? Okay, introductory talk. Is that good, yeah? Okay, good, yeah. And thank you again for coming to this retreat. But one of the things I look at, most people here, some of you I've known for many years, there's few people here who are very young. I don't want to be mean or critical, but why is it when you were saying about one of the things which the Buddhist fellowship, or Buddhist young fellowship, has a problem with is attracting young people? I became a Buddhist when I was 16, and I felt so privileged to actually define these teachings. Number one, they made sense. They also had the practices of things like precepts. You know, when I first landed back in Australia after this trip, I land in the afternoon on New Year's Eve, and I go back to Australia in time for New Year's Eve, because for many years now I've been holding Ajahn Brahm's party, celebration of New Year's Eve. The only reason I do that, because many Buddhists, they have so many other invitations, you know, on a time like New Year's Eve, and they feel that everybody's celebrating it. It's not a Christian holiday, it's not a Muslim holiday, it's not a sort of Buddhist holiday or a Hindu holiday, but everybody else is celebrating, so why can't we? So I decided, let's organize a New Year's Eve party. But of course, it's a New Year's Eve party without alcohol, which is what sets it apart from other parties. Shows that people can have fellowship and fun without having to have alcohol involved. Because when people involve alcohol, there's all sorts of silly things happen. There's consequences to it. I don't know, I remember telling this story in the BGF many years ago. And I remember after finishing that story, I was being driven up to Ipoh, and I remember that the driver had the radio on. I don't know what the channel was, but a presenter said, I heard this story last night, it was somebody who actually was at the BGF, about the man who went to the airport, and you know, he'd been on a flight from one place to another place, and when he arrived at Perth Airport, they insisted on checking his baggage. And underneath, in one of the suitcases, underneath a couple of jumpers, were these 2 undeclared bottles. And he said, "What is this?" said the customs officer. And the man said, "Oh, I've just been to France. I'm a Catholic. To the holy city of Lourdes. It's holy water." And the customs officer said, "Well then, why have you got in a bottle with the label Johnny Walker on the outside?" Well, you've got to put it in something. There's just 2 empty bottles I happened to have. And the customs officer was getting even more suspicious. So he opened the top of one of the bottles. He smelt it. And he told the man to smell it too. "This is not water. This is whiskey." And the man smelt it and said, "You're right. It's another miracle." Of course, it's not miraculous at all. He was smuggling. But nevertheless, we can have a great time together, enjoy, have fellowship with good people without needing to break our precepts. And that's what I do on New Year's Eve. And I stay up to midnight and some chanting. And after, I don't know if anybody's been to my New Year's Eve parties, afterwards, after saying Happy New Year to everybody, then I ask people, please don't go the straight way home. See if you can find a policeman. And see if you can, get stopped by the policeman. Because he will ask you, "Sir, have you been to a party?" You say, "Oh yes, I've been to a party." "Have you been drinking?" "Oh yes, I've been drinking." But don't tell what. Water, tea, orange juice. And see if you can get your breath tested. Your breath tested. And so sometimes they do that. And then they soon see straight away, "Oh, you've been to Ajahn Brahm's party." I'm notorious now. Bad for I'm not bad, I'm good for keeping people healthy and happy. So that's one of the reasons why you can have a wonderful time without needing alcohol. And that's one of the reasons why here in this meditation retreat, I hope you have a wonderful time here. Are you supposed to have a wonderful time in a meditation retreat? Again, I was very fortunate. Okay. I was always a very fortunate man. Always things going well for me in life. But I also remember that when I decided to become a monk, a lot of my friends never took me seriously. I went to the Buddhist temples in London, and then I said, "I'm going to become a monk." "Oh yeah, you'll be back." That was 50 years ago. And so, of course, I never went back. Once I was a monk, I loved being a monk. You know, one of the reasons why that they never had any faith that I'd be a monk for a long time? I asked them afterwards, "Why?" "Because you were too happy." They always thought the monk should be miserable. If being a monk meant being miserable, I'm not into that. If you lessen suffering, what's going to happen? You get happy, you get peaceful. You see, there's even more joy in life than other people see. If ever you go to one of my New Year's Eve parties, you see people having a good time there, really enjoying themselves. If you want a good time, what's the reason why people have a good time? Because they're living a good life. They're good people. They're keeping precepts. Keeping precepts is not a miserable lifestyle, it's a beautiful lifestyle. I kind of saw that straight away. And so whenever I saw a miserable monk or miserable teacher, I realized they didn't know what they were talking about. But fortunately, the first teachers I saw in our Buddhist society at Cambridge University was a secular society. It was like not secular, but it was run by lay people under the advice of monks. That's when I see the BGF. It kind of reminds me of the group where I first started as a lay Buddhist at Cambridge. A group of lay people trying to do our best But we were listening to every type of Buddhism, because I wasn't wise enough yet to distinguish between which Buddhism was the best, which teacher was the best. That's one of the reasons why, when I say how much I admire the three refuges in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the, or is it Ajahn is or Ajahn Nat? You don't take refuge in Thich Nhat Hanh. You don't take refuge in the Dalai Lama. You don't take refuge, certainly not in Ajahn Brahm. You take refuge in the Sangha. So there, if you are these teachers, we can serve, we can help. But the real thing you take refuge in is the Sangha. There are many good monks and nuns who are actually teaching in this world. Just like a university, you learn a different thing from a different great professor. You put them all together, you get even closer to the truth. So anyway, that is, I was happy doing that. And to me that sounded to be fair and to be honest for someone who was inquiring. I still remember the first meditation which I'd learned, was, it would happen to be Theravada, but taught by a layman. Every week he would come up to teach us simple samatha meditation, meditation on the breath. And I still recall him saying, I was maybe 18, 19 years of age at the time, he'd say, I'm teaching you this type of meditation for one reason only, so you can experience the first jhana. That's what he said. I didn't realize at the time how powerful that statement was. I thought that's what everybody did. I was just fortunate to see a teacher who was saying such amazing things. So I did that for a couple of years, and then carried on with my meditation, eventually found my way over to Thailand. The only reason I went to Thailand to become a monk was because the Thai monk smiled more than any other monk. Honestly. And of all those Thai monks I saw, it was Ajahn Chah smiled the most and told his gross stories. That was fascinating. And it wasn't just his happiness. I don't know if you've heard me say this story before, but the reason I decided to become a disciple of Ajahn Chah was when I first went up there just to look and see that we were doing some work, and the work we were doing, making these little baskets. And Ajahn Chah came up to me and said, "Oh, you're very good at making baskets." I looked at my basket, looked at other people's basket, no way. You're not going to impress me that way. And I was going to prepare him almost to leave. You can't sort of think you're going to be coerced into being his disciple through that type of method. But then I was busy making my basket, and there was another monk. Actually, it just happened by coincidence to be that monk who asked about his girlfriend in LA. Same monk. And he was asking questions of Ajahn Chah. And then they had to be translated, and Ajahn Chah would give an answer, and it would be translated back again into English. And I was listening while making my basket, and Ajahn Chah's answers were terrible. They had nothing to do with this young monk's questions. But I noticed his answers were almost perfect answers to a question I was thinking about. So, because I was trained as a scientist, I decided to do an experiment. I thought of another deep question about the Dhamma, just silently. And then this American monk asked another question. Ajahn Chah gave an answer. The answer to the question I was thinking. He did that about 3 times. Every time it's a really good answer to the question I was thinking. And I asked the American monk, what did you think of Ajahn Chah's answers to your questions? They were crazy, they made no sense to me. And that was the first time you could see that a monk like an Ajahn Chah could read minds. So that was it. After that, okay, I'll take refuge with you for the next, I don't know how many years. And he had incredible confidence and faith in that monk, Ajahn Chah. So much so that I made a resolution in my first years as a monk. I will never ask to go anywhere. I'll put myself at the service of my teacher. So if Ajahn Chah thinks I should go to this monastery, I will go there. I won't come back until Ajahn Chah asks me to come back. And if he asks me to stay, I will stay. If he asks me to go, I will go. But I won't make any decisions myself. And that was how it happened. After about 8 or 9 years as a monk, he sent me to help Ajahn Jacaro over in Perth. Didn't particularly want to go or not want to go. I'd never been to Australia before. But Ajahn Chah sent me there. And about 2 or 3 weeks after he sent me to Perth, Ajahn Chah had a stroke and could not speak anymore. And that's how I got stuck in Perth. Honestly. There's a lot of truth to that. But anyway, if you'd have sent me to Malaysia, you'd have had me all this time. But anyhow, so I was fortunate that it didn't really matter where I went to, because when you close your eyes and start meditating, it doesn't matter where you are. Just before I came in here, I got some instructions wrong. I thought I had to come out here 2 p.m. So I got as far as the reception area. They said, no, you don't have to go in there yet. So I said, I'll just go and sit in the corner. There was no corner to sit in, but sit on a bench. So I was happily sitting in there, as you know. And then somebody comes, it's time to go now. So then I went. That's always been my life. I'll go there, and you ask me to come, and I'll come. You ask me to go, I'll go. It's a much easier life. But nevertheless, it was just sitting there, and no time, no sort of... I don't know if you really were very quiet in that reception area, but soon I couldn't hear anything. So it's wonderful with that type of meditation. You can meditate anywhere. It doesn't matter how noisy or how quiet it is. You can sit really silent and rest. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. And it also means that any time when you need a break, a bit of peace and quiet, you can get that peace and quiet anywhere, no matter how noisy it is. I don't know if you know that last night, the BGF, they had these people working outside. They were cutting down the trees on the wall till about 8 o'clock. They didn't mind, just meditating. They can do it as loud as they like. We know how to meditate. There's never a problem. So this type of meditation, it made it so that you are kind of totally independent of what was happening in the world. It's a beautiful type of meditation. And that's what I want to teach here. What is that? How do you do that? And there's a jhanas. I know many, many times, that you come to these retreats. Ajahn Chah teaches, Ajahn Brahm teaches jhanas. I do. Some of you get it straight away. Some of you get it next lifetime. But eventually it gets in there. And it's not just getting these jhanas on the table. How do you get them? First of all, the precepts which you've just taken, the virtue. That's a powerful ingredient for getting these deep meditations. Silena sukhatinyanti. From the precepts from virtue, it's a cause for happiness, a deep happiness. You can tell if a person is keeping the precepts they're happy, not just superficial happiness, deep inside. And it's also what the Buddha says, every time there's an ordination, this little phrase I'm supposed to say, Silang Parabhavato Samadhi Mahaparahoti Mahanisanso, that when the precepts of virtue when the precepts of virtue supports the meditation is of great power, of great value. That's why when somebody becomes like a monk, they're increasing their commitment to virtue. And that means the meditation goes even deeper. Why? Because of what is virtue anyway? Virtue is letting go of the things you want and becoming more peaceful. Letting go of any ill will which you have towards yourself and others. So the past and the future kind of disappear, they're not so important anymore. The virtue creates more kindness. I always say, and hear me say this again many times on this retreat, the way to let go of the past and the future is to be kind to the past and kind to the future first. When you give it that kindness, it's so much easier to let go of. You're kind of softening it, that it's not so heavy, and you can undo it from you and totally let it go. I've seen beautiful examples of that. And so this means that it's so easy for you to become peaceful. Why is it? You've got the next 8 days, nothing to do. Just relaxing to the max, as you can hear me say again many times. Really to relax to the max is not pushing your body. You can relax it and become so at ease. It's not pushing your mind, it's relaxing it. And the past and the future kind of vanish. And you're relaxing into this moment. And all you ever see is what's happening right now. You're at peace. You're at ease. You're light. You're not burdened down by things. You've got nothing to attain, nothing to get rid of. You're kind of like free. And because of that, now you realize just exactly what this path is. That's the path which I was first taught as a layperson. And that's the first, please excuse me, sometimes people criticize me for saying this, but I'm just being totally honest with you. I was a layperson when I got my first deep meditation. And it was at the time I had a girlfriend. And the reason why they criticized me, I have to be honest with you, we were having sexual relations. I thought I was going to commit to that woman for a long time. But then the meditation came up nice and deep. It was kind of unfair to the woman. She didn't know what was going on. But kind of that was the end of sexual relations. The happiness, the joy, the profundity of meditation far outweighed anything which was sensual. And no one ever told me about that before. So please excuse me that, if you get a deep meditation on this retreat, and if that wrecks your marriage, you can quote me to the divorce lawyer. It was my fault. That's what happens, is find a happiness which is more pure, deeper, and more reliable. So that's why I became a monk. But it's not just for the sake of just having more monks and nuns in the world. That's a wonderful thing to have. But have more beautiful, peaceful, wise people in this world. As the mind becomes really still, and of course, stillness, not concentration. I mentioned that to many of you. I mentioned that in the car coming up here, from the VGF to this place. Please never think that meditation has anything to do with concentration. If it had, what would this place be called? Concentration camp. Were you ever told by your teachers at school, concentrate, concentrate? You know, fortunately, I never was. My sort of even learning experience is weird. But I love math, always loved math. I find it so easy, just do it. And that was great, never needed to study before examinations. It was like any other skill, either you can do it or you can't do it. You didn't have a SWOT before the exams. And so you just did it. I still remember this when my father was sick and getting close to death. After school, I would just get the bus and go to the hospital. And a lot of time when I arrived at the hospital, my father was asleep. He was really sick. And I would just sit by his bed and get out my homework, my math homework. Just do it. I enjoyed it. So I remember some of the nurses coming by, well, what are you doing? I do my homework, sitting next to my dad who was sleeping. And they were really, 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 really kind to me and impressed. And not only did I love my dad and spend time with him, but also just do my homework at the same time. Because it was fun, I enjoyed it. And that's the same with meditation. It's not concentration done by force. You find the joy in it, the piti sukha. And because of that, you just love meditating. That's again one of the reasons when I went to that reception area just now, and I realised I was about half an hour early. That's why I asked, can you go in the corner, just meditate? I enjoy that. I look forward to these retreats. I can really get into some nice meditation. And no one can ask me any questions. And I thank you that there is no internet here. At least I hope there is, and I haven't asked you, but I heard that rumour and I'm sticking to it. There's no internet here, so no one can send me emails with all the problems from Australia. Imagine you're free. Free of the past, free of the future, free of so many responsibilities. It's just time for you to be peaceful, to be free. And that's what happens. So you're sitting there meditating. What are you doing meditating? Relaxing to the max. That's why I love starting with body contemplation. Really relax my body. I don't know how much you can relax your body, but I relax it really so much. So much that I reckon that's one of the reasons. I'm 73 years of age now. I don't tend to have sicknesses. I know that you said here's some strepsils in case you're talking too much, but I guarantee I won't take them. Not because I don't need them. I never get COVID. It's been years since I was sick. So you're going to have to put up with me for a long time before I pass away. And I think, why? Because I really know how to relax my own body. And when you relax your own body, it kind of disappears. That's the first thing I do. So before it disappears, I've always noticed that relaxing my own body, it gets very, very pleasant. There's a feeling inside of it, really relaxed, and it feels good. I can't talk about anybody else because I can't go into your body. I don't know how you feel when you're relaxed. But there's no tension left inside of it. Everything is like kind of loose, no blockages. And even if there is any ache, say in a knee, sometimes I get an ache in the knee, but I just get a nice meditation and zap it. Zap. It actually works. That's why sometimes you do chanting on you. Then you may have a sore arm, Victor, and I'll just do a little bit of chanting of loving kindness. It actually works. How come? It's just learning how to relax that part of the body for you. With some chanting, you know me for such a long time, you've got enough confidence. I don't tell fibs to you. And it actually does relax enormously. That's one of the first things I do when I meditate. Relax the body. And then from that it feels so good. You do feel some piti sukha along with the body. Then you go inside. I say inside, I don't mean to my intestines. I mean metaphorically, you go inside to where the mind is. Just how you picture the mind. I do the same to that, to relax the mind. What is peace of mind? Sometimes you just say that word, peace, peace, peace. And after a while, your mind recognizes that concept, that idea, that perception. And it's very, very pleasant. And soon the mind goes into that peace. And it stays there for a while. Please don't be concerned at all in this meditation retreat if you get dull and sleepy. Because as soon as I see a few people just yawning, that is when I raise my voice and wake you all up by changing the tone of the voice. The peace is beautiful. It's gorgeous. Do you want to miss out on the beauty of a peaceful mind? And that's actually what happens. From the peace, yeah, you may get sleepy at first, but then after a while, the energy starts getting into your mind. When it starts getting into your mind, it's like you're charging up. And if any of you, like you were saying, you want to make Buddhism more relevant for the kids, please tell them how to do well in exams. I keep on doing this in Perth, and again, the last people I taught this to was the kids at the Jewish school in Perth. You know, the year 12 exams, pre-university, really important exams. You do well in that, and you get good places at university. So I was teaching them. No, I was invited to go to the Jewish school in Perth because I knew the rabbi there. He was a good mate. The reason why he's a good mate is controversial. I asked him once about, said, you know, one of the differences between Judaism and Buddhism is the Buddhists believe in rebirth, you don't. He said, yes, we do. So you believe in rebirth? Yeah. Well, I never knew that before, thank you. And then I saw another rabbi and said, I never realized that you believe in rebirth. He said, we don't. But this rabbi said you do. Oh yeah, him. He was a rebel. And so once I met a rebel rabbi. Those words go together, rebel and rabbi. They became my friend. So anyway, he was asking me, can you help with the Jewish school? They're doing really terrible, you know, for their university entrance exams. I went there and I taught them the usual, how to meditate, to let go of the past and future, and then how to get your mind really bright and powerful, ready for the exams. And I went there for the afternoon, then left, and then a couple of days later, the principal of the Jewish school wrote a letter to me. Thank you, Ajahn Brahm. I don't know what you did, but it worked. They got the top school in West Australia that year for the university exams. I don't know why other people don't do that. It works. It worked for me. You do half an hour meditation before exams and you do really, really, really well. Not just in exams, in sports as well. In sports, you know, in Perth we had, actually in Australia, Women's World Cup Soccer. Did you know that? Are you into soccer at all? None of you, but anyway. Anyway, I knew this was on when one day, Friday evening, this lady came, I hadn't seen her before in Perth, and she said she was the head coach of the Colombian women's soccer team. They made it into the World Cup finals, and they were playing a game the next evening in Perth. So she took the opportunity, she said she listens to my talks on YouTube, So she wanted to come and see me reel up with a couple of players. Going playing a big match, World Cup Women's Soccer Finals in Australia. That next match was in Perth. So I gave her a blessing. Of course, you don't watch the match, but I asked afterwards. They actually won that match because of my blessing. Because they lost every other match. It was nice, at least that one they won, which they were blessed for. So anyhow, even just in sport it seems to work. What are you doing about doing your BGF, making it successful? Nalanda, making it successful? Do you want to be successful, Victor? You already are. It sometimes does work. The meditation allows you to let go of the past, let go of the future, so you don't have any stress. And one of the things, actually, how long can I keep talking for? Are you fed up yet? I'll talk some about other things later on. Okay. 4 o'clock. Oh, great, I've got another 20 minutes. Oh. One of the other things which I'm really interested in, okay, it's the right way around, I don't know. Is that okay? Okay. One of the other things which I'm really interested in is just how, through the meditation, it can increase people's health. And that's, one of the weird things, and I should know this works, but sometimes when you teach meditation, that it actually does cure cancers. I've seen it so many times. One of those cases years ago, this guy called George, I'll never forget him, because he was a Londoner, but born in the East End. He had such a thick Cockney accent that I had to translate from Cockney into English for the Australian monks. But his story, he was that old, remembers being in East London during the Second World War, and that they'd all smoke in those days. And because they smoked, he, like many other people, got lung cancer. An amazing reason, I never smoked when I was a kid. I had a very fortunate upbringing. Every other kid in the school smoked, but not me. Anyway, that he had lung cancer, and so he went to his doctor. He was dying, basically. And the doctor, the oncologist, showed him his latest, X-ray at that time, and said, look, just the tumours are over all of your lungs. Usually we do surgery and cut the affected parts of your lung out, but it's all over. We have to cut everything out. We have no lungs left. So we can give you chemotherapy, radiation therapy, but chances are it'll only extend your life for 2 or 3 months. So he said, well, you make your choice. And he said, I'll go home and talk it over with my wife. So he went home, talked it over with his wife. When he went back to the oncologist a week later, they insisted on doing another X-ray, or CAT scan, whatever it was, just to see how it had developed over 1 week. And so he told me he went into the specialist's office. The specialist was looking at the new scan and shaking his head. And poor old George, it's got worse, hasn't it? It's got worse. And the doctor looked up and said, no, George, it's totally gone. What have you been doing? It had gone so fast without any normal treatment. And he said, I've been meditating. And all the doctor said, carry on. There's so many cases I've seen like that. And when you see those cases of diseases, sometimes incurable or really painful, kind of vanishing, you kind of ask, what is going on? We really want to make sure that these teachings on meditation can be used more and more and more to help people live a healthy, peaceful, good life. That's one of the reasons why I was going to say that one of the other things I get into is where I met this Jewish rabbi at the Cancer Support Association in Western Australia. It was a voluntary organisation. They were doing such good works that the Premier of Western Australia at that time was a man called Colin Barnett. It was just round the corner from his home, and so he decided to use a lot of government money, a few $1 million, to build better infrastructure for this voluntary group. And so, when it was completed, then they invited 2 VIPs to open the new centre. One of the VIPs was Colin Barnett, and the other VIP was... And I couldn't understand, what are you inviting me for? I'm not a politician. I haven't given any money to the Cancer Support Association because I don't have any money to give. I'm a penniless Buddhist monk. And they said, no, we invited you because of all the service you've done for about 35 years to the organisation. And it was kind of, like, moved me that people actually were getting so much benefit out of this Buddhist monk going there to help out, to give talks, to teach them meditation, invite them to come to Bodhinyana Monastery. And so I accepted the invitation. But you know how I do blessings? We always do blessings with holy water. So I made some holy water, and the Premier of Western Australia was there. It's a very powerful politician. And I had to ask the bodyguards of the Premier, is it okay if I dredge the Premier with holy water? And they had a look at it. It's perfectly harmless, it's only good for him. Okay, so I had the opportunity. Even though the Premier, I think, was a Christian, I'm not sure what denomination, but he got a drenching from Ajahn Brahm. I was laughing all over my face when that happened. But anyway, all good fun. But it's just the fact that these things actually work, especially the meditations. And the fun part too. I always say the virtue, but also the joy and the fun. All those stories which I've told here today, I'm sure you've heard most of them before. Some of them you missed before. But why do I keep telling them? Because when it's fun and joyful, it shows that even listening to a talk can be an enjoyable way of spending time. And there's many, many deep things which I've said here. And that's also during your meditation. Please look at your posture when you're meditating. You know the most important part of your posture? Is it how your legs are put? No. Is it if your back is straight or not? No. Where your hands are? No. The most important part of your posture is this. Honestly, it's not a joke. Sometimes the way I say things, people say I'm just being flippant. But this is serious. I've done this in my meditation, I've taught it to other people. If you're meditating and it's okay, but you're not really getting some real power in your meditation, take your awareness away from your breath or whatever else you're watching and put it just on the position of your mouth. And turn up the corners. Try it. You find it actually works. It gives that sense of you're enjoying, you're engaged. It's so much easier to be aware of something you're enjoying watching. And it means it takes away a lot of the stress, and you get in this position, you're enjoying this moment of meditation, and it continues. You have some amazing meditations that way. Such a simple teaching, putting joy in. And once the joy really gets going, wow. That's one of the great things I know about meditation, and the great things I look forward to as well. Okay, I do look forward to it. I still keep saying keep in the present moment. But every now and again, someone comes up to you, like this Malaysian many years ago. I won't say who she is, but uh, shh. She is a bikini now. That limits the possibilities of who it is. But after a retreat I was giving over in, I think, Thailand, she was coming. She was really trying hard, doing a lot of meditation, really smart woman. And eventually, the last meditation, she wasn't getting anywhere. Just as difficult as ever. But then she realized that her flight back from Thailand to Malaysia was going to leave quite late. She had an extra hour, she said. She said she had an hour to kill. There's a silly way of talking. You don't kill time, unfortunately. But she never did kill it. Instead, she went into the hall and sat down and meditated. For the first time in the whole retreat, she wasn't trying. Kill time. And when she came out, that's why I never forget, I was just sitting on a chair next to the table, I think having a coconut water or something, I forget what. And I remember her squatting in front of me with her hands up. Oh. Okay. It doesn't. Okay. Oh. 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 I don't want. Oh. Please excuse me, but this is the best I can recall it and imitate it. At last, oh. For the first time, she got into a deep state of stillness. And that's when she came out afterwards. That's how she expressed it. The emotional overflow. She was blissed out of her little head. Wonderful joy and happiness. Well done. Are there any bad side effects of getting these deep meditations? Yes, there are. She lost all her hair. No bad side effects, just what happened. It's kind of you understand why. And why a person's on Markona. A deeper appreciation of the idea of Sangha. You've seen, you touched something new. But sir, if it hasn't got any hair, you have nothing to worry about. Over there you're already bald. But it's a great sense of you're doing this not to try and get something in the future. It's an expression of where you are now. Beautiful, peaceful, and happy. But my problem is, as a teacher, sometimes when I tell stories like this, many say, yeah, I want. Remember that particular woman, she gave up. She thought it was impossible. How many of you have been trying for years and years and years, and years have got nowhere? You were similar to her. Eventually you just kind of press the letting go button. You disappear. You forget about owning anything. Just for a time of meditation. You're just the same as me when I'm here. Penniless. Owning nothing. Totally free while you're here. And then there's a good chance you're creating the conditions so peace, deep peace can come up. Can you be peaceful when you want something? To see if you can tell yourself, no wanting, free at last. And that's the best way. Oh my goodness. I think I've been going on long enough. Do you agree? Yeah, okay. Thank you for listening. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. You know what sadhu means in English? Awesome. How can you say that in Bahasa? Hebat. Hebat. Okay.